Hey there, I'm Trista Polo with Cecil TV, and I am so excited to be here with local Cecil County author Faith Addair. Her book, Raising an Addict, has recently hit the bookshelves and online, and she has been talking about it and sharing it with the county and beyond. In addition to being an author, Faith is also a wedding officiant and an event and wedding planner for the last 25 years. She's been in Cecil County raising her children, now helping with her grandchildren. And we're so excited to be with you today. Welcome, Faith. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you for
Yes,
having me.
yes, it's wonderful to have you. Now, this is your first book. So, how did you get started as an author with a very different kind of career?
Well, I've always wanted to write, but when my children were young, I wanted to write children's books, but you just get too busy, you don't have time. I've I was born with a book in my hand. I love to read. And so it was always there. But again, I always thought it would be children's books. And then when um, this all started with my son, and he got through his process and through his recovery, I just felt like I needed to get it down. And yet it wasn't going to come. I couldn't purge it. I really couldn't, because it was so raw. And yet I had to write it. I had to write it. I had to write it. So I wrote it.
Wow. And so it wasn't so much like a want or a desire, it was almost a need, it sounds like, to
Yeah.
get your experiences on paper because this is a memoir, right? This is a memoir,
Yes.
your
Yes.
personal journey.
Yes. Now, the names are all changed because I want to respect my family's privacy. With that being said, it is all true, and they all know, and they've all supported it. But yeah, uh, it has been a need, and I will tell you this: the first class that I took with my book coach, Michelle Chenoweth, who is an author, a local author as well. My first class I took with her just over 6 years ago. I thought that I had already started, and I kept thinking, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And that day, when I reached for the door handle, I felt like God said to me, "You are not going to do anything until this book is done." And he was not kidding.
Wow. Wow. So this was a really important journey for you to take. So I think from the title, we can sort of infer what it's about. But tell us, what is Raising an Addict about? Tell us a little bit about the journey that you share in the book.
Sure. Thank you. Well, it started about his journey, and our journey with him through it, because we knew nothing about heroin. I mean, we knew nothing. So when I first started, getting this all out, it felt like I was going through it all again. And my husband said the same thing when he read it. But that's what it started out as, his journey and our support through it. But as the book went on and as I was writing it, it came out as, okay, the journey was, and I had to write it as the truth. And that was, he wasn't the only addict in this family. I was an addict. I had to be in control of everything. And if I wasn't, then I felt like things were going to go wrong, or I couldn't help him, or stuff, like that. And most women are. We try to be in control of things. But it it boggled my mind how easy it was to go from his addiction, which is horrible, to realizing God was showing me, yeah, we're talking about yours as well, because you want to be in control of everything and you need to give it to me. You are not in control of everything and you need to let it go.
Okay.
So it it quickly became the story of me being the addict, um, i- as well, because I had to be in control of everything. And that desperate need to be in control of everything was d- I could not let it go. It kept me awake. I mean, and it was my drug, so to speak. And so it was life changing for God to get a hold of me and say, enough. You're not in control of this. And I'd like to say I still, I've, I have no control problems anymore. I cannot say that, but I can say that the peace that I was able to hold on to through this, it's unexplainable other than, you know, it's God's peace. Simply because when I was able to team up with my husband, who was, you know, standing beside us all along, and actually be on his team instead of against him, fighting against him so much, it very quickly became okay, you know what? We have no control over this, but it's going to be okay. And it I think that if nothing else comes and rings true about this book to people and touches people, I hope that does. That they understand that you don't have control over it, but you love them, and you keep yourself healthy, and everything will work out in the end.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you recognized your own journey, your own struggle, and you were able to work on healing that while you were being there to support him as well. So you mentioned that the book took you 6 years to write. I don't think people if you've never written a book, I don't think people understand how long the process can take. You could bang a book out. I had a friend that just put a book out in 4 weeks from start to publish. But it was a struggle for him to do that. And it typically takes over a year, but your journey was 6 years long. Why do you think that is?
Well, it was on my heart to do very early on after his recovery. Now he just celebrated 10 years. But early on, I just felt like I needed to talk about it. But it was so raw that I just felt like I couldn't. And part of me hadn't hadn't really grabbed what God truly had done for me through all of that. And there was still that guilt and that ugliness of, you know, I felt like I didn't take care of him well and all of that. And so if I put this on paper, people would see that I was a big fat failure. And and then of course it's the who's going to want to read this? Is it going to be good enough? Blah blah blah. I mean, a million different things. And Michelle, bless her heart, she was great about just talking me through, because this is a story people need to hear. But it was hard to get out because it was very personal, sorry. And I had every intentions from the beginning of being completely transparent. And that's tough when it's ugly. When you look ugly, you don't want people to see you.
You're so right. And I think I always say, cough up that fur ball, because as long as you're not willing to talk about it, it owns you.
Yes, it does. Amen.
Right. And so I love that you finally did that. You coughed up that fur ball and you did it in a way that will allow other people to hopefully receive some healing as well. But you said, I read that you said that this actually helped you heal the journey of writing the book. So can you share a little bit about your healing journey inside of facing it, putting it on paper, being willing to put it out into the world and let other people see it?
Sure. it the healing part was so much of, as it was coming out, visiting again the painful part, and the scary part, of course, but then seeing what was what was being worked out through this, and how I was being sculpted, for lack of a better way to put it. God was working through me to be who he wanted me to be, not who Faith wanted me to be. And so as I was writing this, I had more aha moments than I can even count, because it happens and you work through it and you're like, "Phew, we made it through." But as you're writing it and you're, going back to journals and things like that, and you're looking at it and you're like, whoa, he really did get me through that. And look at the change that I could not have handled this 2 years ago, and those kinds of things. So he made me capable of being a calmer human being, um, much more loving in my relationships, specifically with my husband, and gentle, um, but also gentle with myself. So, because, as a mother, we blame ourselves. As a parent, I don't want to say just mother, we blame ourselves for everything. And that was what was so hard about it, was that I felt like I had failed all through and all through. And as I got through the book, I realized we all fail. We all fall short, and it's all right. Our intentions, as long as our intentions are good, and as long as we're doing our best, then it's good enough. And so, getting all the way through that, and getting an Atta girl essentially from God, that was all the healing I needed. But the first person that walked through the door of my first book signing and said it helped her feel less guilty to realize that someone else felt the same way that she did as her daughter went through it, that was worth it. That was worth it, because we all need to know we're not alone.
Yeah, you helped yourself heal through the journey of writing it, and you've already helped people heal and will help countless more
I hope
as
so.
they read it as well. You talk about the fact that drug addiction does not care about race, religion, or socioeconomic status. That's a quote I saw from you, and that you learned that firsthand. What would you say to parents who say, well, this will never happen to me, this will never happen to my family?
Right. Well, I would say you're lying to yourself, and you're lying to your family. And I don't mean that harshly, I mean that as a warning. Addiction of any kind is not prejudice, and it sneaks in like a little vapor, until it gets a hold. Um, we thought, I mean, don't get me wrong, we were not perfect parents, but I knew my kids as friends. Their parents' phone numbers were in my phones. More, I almost always knew where they were. We participated in their lives. We did everything according to what the books told us we were supposed to do. And yet it still happened to us. And so, don't, when you feel something isn't quite right, go looking, dig at it a little bit. Trust your instincts as a parent, as a brother, sister, mother, whatever it is. Trust those instincts that something is off, because something is off. It may not have gotten there yet, but when you feel it, you know it. So go after it.
Well, I'd love to ask you, in your experience, what are some warning signs that parents can look out for?
Well, I have to tell you, I would love to say I know what they are. I can tell you some things that um, are, hindsight for me. Him removing himself from the family a little bit, hanging around with new friends, not wanting to come up to dinner with us. His big thing is not looking me in the eye, because his eyes for me were always, his eyes tell the whole story for me. And so when your kid stops being your kid, don't chalk it up to he's just being a teenage boy and doesn't want to hang out with mom. Because while that is true to a certain extent, your kid doesn't just turn different for no reason. So when you feel like something is off, something is off, and start talking. And you're not their friend. You drive them crazy. You won't be sorry, because I wished that I had drove him crazy, and really dug at these just inklings, which now are, 2020, like I said. But just those inklings, I wished so much that I would have said, hey, come on, let's come over here and let's sit down and let's talk about it. Something is going on. I need to hear what's happening, because you know your kid better than anybody.
And don't just chalk it up to hormones is what you're saying.
No, no, because listen, they're crazy. They're kids. They're supposed to be. They're supposed to stretch the boundaries. They're supposed to try our patience, all of that kind of stuff. But that is normal kid. When it goes beyond that, and it is the uh-oh kid. That remember in the toddler age where you had that quiet and the uh-oh quiet, kind of the same thing. So when you get that uh-oh feeling, go with it and investigate it.
Yeah, like follow your gut about it.
Yeah,
Follow,
absolutely.
yeah. Okay, great. Because we can get so busy and we trust our kids, we raised them right, we know they would never, and we have so many assumptions. And so what you're saying is don't assume, check into it, because the earlier you do that, probably the better off you
Yeah,
are. Yeah.
yeah,
Now you mentioned
absolutely.
that you had somebody come up to you at a book signing and talk about what a difference it had made. So it sounds like your book's been really well received so far. Where can we find the book? Where will you be doing some events? Tell us about what's coming next for you in the book. Where can we find you?
Excuse me. Yeah, for the first, I think it was 10 days, it was in the top 100 releases on Amazon. And so I, you know, I don't want to brag, but I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot toot, I was tickled pink.
Yes,
Um,
indeed. Congratulations on that.
and so I was very excited about that. And so you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble. And then locally, right now, it's at Kathy's Corner Shop on Main Street in Northeast. She sells them, and I'm working on getting them at a few other locations in each town, just so that everybody can have an easy access to them. And with that being said, I have some upcoming um, book signings, like you said, and we're going to be on May the 4th. Whoops, May the 4th be with you.
Thank you.
Sorry,
If you didn't do it, I was going to.
I was going to have to do it. I can't help it. We're Trekkies. We just are. There is a vendor fair, or there is a big um, craft fair at the Cecil Arena up on 272 in the Calvert area. So I'll be there. I will have books, and I'll be doing book signing. And then Harvest Pentecostal Church on Bayview Road in Northeast, just up past the college. They're having a craft fair on May the 18th. But the second Friday for Northeast is back this year they took it off a couple of years, and so they're back, baby. And so May the 10th is their first second Saturday of the season, and I will be at Kathy's Corner
Aw,
doing book signings there. So the 4th, the 10th, and the 18th so far. And then I've got some things coming up in June, June 15th at Union Church and stuff. So, but hit my website. You can see everything that's coming up.
great. And your website is faithadair.com?
Yes.
Great. So we can get the information about upcoming events on your site. We can get the book locally and online. And what's next for you as an author? This was your first, but I don't think it's your last.
Well, I have to tell you, it's very funny because I told you the story about how when I went to my first writing class um, a little over 6 years ago, and I felt like God just dropped in my spirit and said, I'm not going to let you do anything else until you write this book. The day that I hit send for my first draft to Michelle, I wrote on my phone a children's book as my husband and I were driving around looking for a fishing hole. So, a children's book based on autism, an older brother talking about his younger brother. And so it is being illustrated right now. My goal is to have it come out next month because it's Autism Awareness Month in April. Because, and it's called My Brother's Different. And it's beautiful because, and I'm saying that because as someone with autism in our family, these children are not disabled. They're super capable and they have different abilities. And they're precious, precious souls. And these kids that are standing alongside of them need to see that and need to be okay with that. And so after that, I have a wedding planning book. I said, yes, now what? And that's in the works already. And then following that is how to be a menopausal woman in a Proverbs 31 world, or how to be a Proverbs 31 woman in a menopausal world.
Wow, you have a lot of great projects coming up.
I like to stay busy. I always have more on my plate than I can do. Drives my husband crazy.
Well, I wish you all the best with your upcoming projects. And of course, really looking forward to seeing your book that you have now, Raising an Addict, get all over the county and beyond so it can be really able to make a difference for its
I hope
readers.
so. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being with us, Faith.
Thank you for having me. You take care. God bless you.
You too. We'll see you around the county.